Hey, this is Jose, and I am in London, England. And what I wanted to do was come on here and talk about some of the ideas that I think are some of the most important concepts to understand if you want to be successful. So remember, this isn't for everyone, and my main intention here is to network with the best people that I can possibly find while also helping out as many people as I can along the way. So I'm a straight shooter. I like to get straight into the point, so I'll just crack right into it. So what was on my mind was this. I was thinking about good entitlement versus bad entitlement. And I think there's obviously a very true stigma for millennials. I'm a millennial myself, and there's a very true stigma that millennials are entitled, and I couldn't agree more. By the way, so I think my generation grew up with just so much luxury, so much comfortability that it's created a almost like a it's like a personality type that people think they deserve things for nothing. And a lot of this stems from like having participation trophies. I remember back when I used to play football when I was little. There's a couple years that the team that I was on actually performed really well and made it to the playoffs. I think one time we were like runner-ups in the championship for Pop Warner football. But there was other seasons where we didn't do anything. We performed terribly, and we still got trophies for it. And I think at that time it was sort of like the onset that participation trophies became a thing. And the reason I fundamentally don't agree with participation trophies is because you're rewarding someone for not winning, right? So the intention the intention with participation trophies is actually good-hearted, right? It's actually wanting to include people in the fun. It's wanting to help people and help kids at least feel acknowledged and feel accomplished. But the thing is, that same kid who received a participation trophy for not winning, for not performing, is now an adult. And as an adult, that person, what happens is in the real world, there's no such thing as participation trophies. You either win or you lose. Okay, so now that same kid who received a participation trophy his entire childhood is an adult who feel like he deserves something for not actually winning, for not actually doing the job that needed to get done. That's exactly what bad entitlement looks like. So someone who feels like they deserve something for nothing. Someone who feels like they don't have to do something valuable in order for them to receive either like a prize or a reward or some sort of validation. Okay, in the real world, if you don't produce value, if you don't perform, you don't get shit. And it's sort of a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, especially in my generation, because we just grew up with so much comfortability that, again, like in an adult, a person who thinks that way as an adult doesn't do anything valuable. Okay, and this is the fundamental reason why, like, I don't agree with participation trophies, because you're literally programming people to think that life is going to be easy. You're always going to receive the result, even if you hadn't put in the proper work for it, even if you didn't produce even if you didn't produce the value that you were supposed to. Okay. Now what that looks like in a business context is, let's say I used to do sales, right? And when I first started doing sales, I felt like when I first started doing sales, I thought I was gonna crush it. I thought it was going to be something that came easy to me, and so I went into sales with a cocky attitude, very egotistical, and literally on my first day of doing door-to-door sales, I got destroyed. But it was something that needed to happen to me in order for me to understand that it's like, oh, okay, like people aren't just gonna roll over for you. Okay, in the real world, business is tough. Things are tough. They require complicated solutions in order for you to be successful. And the thing about having bad entitlement is it robs you of that problem solving capability. It turns you into a person that bitches and moans about what your circumstance or your situation is, and you completely dissolve yourself of the responsibility that is required of you in order to get some better results, if that makes sense. So the whole thing here is, when you don't hold yourself accountable and you don't see yourself as responsible for your situation, and you think that the world owes you something, that's when entitlement becomes a bad thing. And that's when it becomes something that holds you back rather than actually gives you value, right? Think in like a business context. Do you want someone who's gonna blame other people for either not getting the result or outcome that they wanted? Someone who's going to blame others for why a job couldn't get done? Or would you want the person who takes responsibility and resolves to come up with solutions in the future? I want that person in my business. I want that person to handle my customers and my clients and to represent me on a bigger scale. Now, there is good entitlement, okay? And I think a healthy amount of entitlement is actually good, right? And it's a fine line between good versus bad. But what happens is, when a person has good entitlement, it's coming from a different place, right? That's really the main concept here that I want to sort of give to you and for you to understand is bad entitlement and good entitlement, they're very similar, but they both come from different places. Bad entitlement comes from a place of scarcity. It comes from a place of irresponsibility. You want to put the onus on other people as to why you can't have something in your life. Versus good entitlement, it comes from a place of inner confidence. It comes from having boundaries and standards for what you're willing to tolerate in your life. And so this is something that took me quite some time to realize and to really internalize, because for the longest time I had bad entitlement, right? I felt like I felt like I deserved things that I didn't work for. And so it caused me to procrastinate. It caused me to put things off. And it ultimately caused me to not be as productive and efficient as I could be. And when I really started to internalize good entitlement, it made pretty much every aspect of my life so much better. It allowed me to find better friends and to network with better people. It allowed me to make a lot more money because I used to do a lot of sales, and I would go into sales conversations with a level of confidence and authority that I wouldn't have if I had a sort of a bad sense of entitlement. Okay. The thing about good entitlement is, again, it comes from confidence. And when you're accessing the most confident parts of your brain and of your body and of your soul, the words you speak, the energy you give off, the nonverbal communication that you begin to use is that of so much more confidence, and thus you will actually get better results, right? The whole trick and the whole key here is to actually have that deeper sense of confidence in it, okay? So, and I want to circle back to some of the stuff I said about like having that bad entitlement being ingrained in you as a kid. Now what happens is, again, when you give a kid a participation trophy, you are robbing them of their personal power. See, the thing is, when you grow up, you need to learn to handle failure, handle rejection, and handle things not going your way. Because what happens is, when you're able to handle things not going your way, you become a much more resilient person. You become someone, again, it's like, that's the person I want in my business. You become the type of person that gets results no matter what happens to you, okay? And you need to ingrain that in kids when they're growing up, because, again, like, we just have so much comfort in our society. We just have so many luxuries that weren't available to previous generations, that it's so easy to fall into this mindset, into this and just this perspective that things are just going to be easy for you all the time. It's not true, right? It really isn't true. And you're really robbing the personal power that a kid who is eventually going to be an adult and part of society, you're really robbing the personal power that they should have in order to create their own destiny, to create their own circumstances, and really live a life of their dreams, to be completely free to do whatever they want with their time, with their energy, with their focus. And so again, there's a fine line between good versus bad entitlement, but once you strike that balance and you shift over to good entitlement, it comes from a place of knowing and understanding yourself at a deep level and being able to either walk away from things that don't serve you, or to be able to work a lot harder in order for you to be able to achieve and attract things that you do deserve and what you do want. Bad entitlement comes from scarcity, and good entitlement comes from abundance. And if you can begin to apply that and implement that into your life every single day, you'll really begin to change the trajectory of your outcomes. Okay, the whole thing here is to understand that you do have the power to create the life of your dreams, and you do that by the decisions you make, by the actions you take, by the thoughts you think. And if you can do that from a place of confidence, it really is a game changer. Right? It really becomes this thing where now you don't need to blame others for your problems and really dissolve yourself of that responsibility. Now it becomes something that you can be proud of, right? It becomes something that will uplift you and inspire you. And also, by virtue of inspiring yourself, you are inspiring others, right? Like, I can't tell you how much more powerful and fulfilling it is to feel that I'm uplifting others with the actions that I'm taking and the outcomes that I'm getting. Right, like, people in my family are looking up to me. I'm a leader in my community. I'm a leader for the people that want to better themselves. And why? It's because, I came from a place where I had just a tremendous sense of irresponsibility, and I would put that on to others. And again, once I began to really take responsibility for my life, it really changed the outcome and the trajectory of my life. And so people look at that and they're inspired by that. Like, they want to do the same thing in their own way for themselves. And that's really been my whole passion project with launching my own company in the first place. Like, my whole thing is, I've been into personal development and self-help for like a decade now. I read my first book when I was 16, and for the better part of that decade, I just couldn't get better results in my life. And it's because It's because little things like this, little nuances like this that I didn't understand at the time, I've developed some wisdom and some expertise by working with so many people. So I'm able to see, I've been able to pick up on what are those little subtleties that I've been doing on myself by observing them in others. Okay, and hopefully that makes sense. In the past couple years, I began to adopt the mentality and the mindset that what's the point in doing all this personal development and all of this self-help if you're not actually getting better results into your life? Right? Like, why do all this work and spend all this time and all this research and all this energy trying to better yourself if you're not actually getting better results? Well, this is right here. This right here is one of those main things that if you just understand this at a deep level, not only will you inspire yourself and get yourself to a place where these things never hold you back, but you will do the same thing for others. Right? You'll begin to attract better circumstances into your life. You'll make more money. You'll have better relationships. You'll have better health. And this comes from having a good sense of entitlement. You have enough confidence and proper judgment to be able to walk away from things that don't serve you and that don't resonate with who you are as a person, and you begin to attract the things that do. And again, it makes you a much more industrious person. It makes you the type of person that is reliable, and it turns you into a valuable, successful, productive member of society, rather than someone who just kind of wants to like put all the blame on others and not take responsibility for their life and complain about everything. Don't complain. There's nothing to complain about. Like, we live in the richest country that has ever been. If you're in the United States, this is the richest country that the world has ever known. There's just so much opportunity here. We are blessed. You won the genetic lottery by being born in this country. And so use that for good. Use that to uplift others. And it all starts from just a deeper sense of confidence. And when you have that deep sense of confidence, you are entitled in a good way, and you will ultimately uplift others to really get some better results into their life as well. Hopefully that all makes sense, and hopefully this resonates. So if this is something that you really vibe with, go ahead and drop a comment, drop a question. I like connecting with you guys. That's part of the reason why I do this in the first place. And if you think someone else that you know can benefit from hearing something like this, go ahead and send it to them as well. I love connecting with people like that too. So I got a lot more videos coming out. This is something that I'm going to continually expand on and talk about. And so just be on the lookout, and I'll talk to you guys soon.